Someone give me a wave. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Kind of. Well, this is the best we've got, so there we go. Thank you all for coming to our Justice Now Coalition March. This is just the beginning. We can march, we have to organise together, and we have to march together and go into our communities and bring people with us. We cannot stop till this is done, till we live in a fairer world. We've got to run through our speakers. We're going to start up with Hillary. So if you can, just put your hands together. Thank you very much. Thank you. No justice. No justice. No justice. Whose lives matter? Black lives matter. Justice when? Now. Justice forever. I'm going to talk to you about a case that many of you will already know. Some of you may not, but I want all of you to listen carefully. The campaign is the Justice for Christopher Capessa campaign. Christopher Capessa was a 13-year-old black boy who lived in one of the South Wales valleys. And on the 1st of July of 2019, Christopher died in the River Cynon by drowning. And within 24 hours, his death was being described as no more than a tragic accident by South Wales Police. Officers, no justice! No peace! You need to talk to. We were forced to stand up and say, how can any police force within 24 hours declare a death as no more than a tragic accident, when all of the people who were present when that young boy drowned hadn't even been spoken to? No justice. No peace. And so we insisted that the police adhere to the same high standards that they are supposed to adhere to. And eventually we got a new investigative team to look at the circumstances surrounding the death of 13-year-old Christopher Capessa. And we moved quite quickly from looking at the tragedy as no more than a tragic accident to an investigation that went along the lines of an investigation into manslaughter. Manslaughter of a 13-year-old black boy. In 1919, right here in South Wales. And on the 19th of February of 2020, and the Crown Prosecution Service decided that although there was enough evidence to bring a charge of manslaughter, they were not going to do so because it was not in the public interest to do so. You are the public. When did you say Christopher's life did not matter? No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter!
Does Christopher's life matter?
Yes!
And so we called for a victim's right of review against the decision of the Crown Prosecution Service. And they took months to review their initial decision. And on the 20th of July of this year, they provided us with their revised
and reviewed decision. And they said this. They moved on a little bit. They said public interest. Does Black Lives Matter?
Yes!
Really? I'm not convinced. I am not convinced when the death of a young black boy is of less significance than the career prospects, the future opportunities of the perpetrator that pushed Christopher to his death. Those are the values that the justice system upholds and give more value to than the death of a young black boy. And we will not stop until we get justice for Christopher Capetta, because we say no justice,
No peace!
no justice,
No peace!
no justice.
No peace!
And so we have to work within the same criminal justice system that brutalizes black people, that kills us with impunity, that hangs us on falsified evidence, and we have to rely on them to eventually do the right thing and bring justice and give justice to Christopher and to Christopher's family. We have an active justice campaign going on. We have a GoFundMe page where we are desperate for funds to be able to challenge this disgraceful decision that nobody needs to be held accountable for the death of a 13-year-old black boy. And so we ask you, stand with us and demand justice for Christopher. Stand with us and demand justice for Christopher's family. Christopher's mother is absolutely on her knees and wondering why her son's life had no value. And it's because of people like you. Although we could not help Christopher, we can most certainly keep his memory alive and say no justice.
No peace!
No justice.
No peace!
No justice.
No peace!
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter!
Stand with us and show that Christopher's life mattered. Stand with us and demand justice for Christopher Capetta. Show me your fists. Take to your knee and call his name. Say his name. Justice for. Justice for. Justice for. Thank you.
Justice Coalition stretches from racial justice to social justice and pay justice, everything that can make us feel secure. Next up, we've got a gentleman coming to talk to us from the nurses' strike. Over you come.
Hello. Just a quick message. I've been asked to tell you that everyone should keep their masks on once you finish eating and drinking, yeah? Just for the safety's sake. Good afternoon. My name is Danny James. I'm a final year mental health nursing student from Swansea, and I'm part of the organising committee of Wales NHS Workers Say No. I really want to thank the organisers for this has been together so many different social and economic and political struggles. We in the NHS have a real perspective on all of that. We understand how social and political injustice are intertwined and how they feed off each other. You can rest assured that those of us involved in NHS Workers Say No in our current pay fight with the Tory government fully understand all these links and support all of your individual struggles on the ground. There may be people who would say to us, well, what does a pay fight in the NHS got to do with social issues like sexism and racism? Well, the answer to that is twofold. It's not just a fight against pay, for pay rather. It's a fight to stop privatisation of the NHS is to make a fairer NHS, is to make a well-funded, properly staffed NHS that can care properly for you. Secondly, these issues are part of everyday work in the NHS. Let me give you a couple of examples. In my field of mental health, a black person in this country is 4 times more likely than a white person. In maternity care, black women are 5 times more likely to die in pregnancy or childcare than white women, and their babies are twice as likely to be stillborn. But on a more personal level, and her name's already been mentioned today, but I think it bears mentioning again, Mercy Baguma, an asylum seeker from Uganda living in Glasgow. Her neighbours were alerted by the crying of her baby's son, and when they broke into the flat, they found the baby malnourished but alive. But Mercy wasn't been so lucky, and she died of starvation. She died of starvation because she could no longer work because her work permits had run out. We live in the 5th richest country on the planet, and this is a country where mothers and babies starve. These facts and these statistics are unacceptable in 2020. Things must change, things can change, and things will change, but only if we fight for this to happen. This has to be more than unity in words, it must.
The other day I was talking to my mum, grand woman so she is, and I said, "Hey mum, do you know that I'm a terrorist?" And she looks at me and she's like, "Please tell me you're kidding." I go, no, I'm Antifa. Under the US laws, or well, Antifa, anti-fascism, was once considered in the US, not so long ago, a terrorist organisation. How, one, anarchism can be an organisation which you sort of put your name down for. As an anarchist, I don't really understand. And 2, it's anti-fascism. The radical communist beliefs that maybe the USSR and Hitler's Russia weren't a great idea are now terrorist ideology. The radical communist beliefs along the lines of, hey, maybe the poor should be able to eat, and people shouldn't be murdered, and the police shouldn't see themselves as pest control for paying people, are now what makes us terrorists. Another view that makes me a terrorist is that trans men are men, trans women are women, and being non-binary is a thing. I myself am a trans man, I'm FTM. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, not exactly fun, wouldn't recommend it, but you know what, it's what I was given. So I'm living with it. I have been on the waiting list for Tavistock, which is the NHS branch that deals with trans people, since about midway through year 7. As of Tuesday, I'm in year 10. That's what we're looking at. You've got your man before me talking.
Right. Wow, what a march! What a march! That was amazing. Thank you everyone for coming. It was so great. Right, so I'm going to talk about a few things. The first is Black lives and why they matter. I just want to mention something. We've seen a lot of police around us. I just want to talk about the role of the police in our society. Often people talk about how we need to join the police, people, black, brown faces in the police. And to be honest, I say no to that. Because the role of the police, as we've seen in George Floyd, in London, with the Cardiff 3 here, with Matan, with all sorts of injustices, what we see is the police prioritising going to the park to arrest black boys instead of going to the mansions of the CEOs that make millions and millions unemployed and desperate for food and desperate to live a life of dignity that is afforded to people who weren't born black. That's why we say defund the police, because they've been defunding, as the NHS amazing worker said, they've been defunding the NHS, they've been defunding legal aid, they've been defunding mental health services since I was born. And when we say defund the police, people say, but how? Well, look around, you're defunding everything else. I also want to talk about, I think I've worked with XR for a while, and I think it's really important that we understand that XR is part of this movement, and we're stronger together. Environmental racism is a thing. You're 28% more likely to be a victim of bad air pollution if you're BAME in the UK. The worst areas affected by pollution without fault are those that are most multicultural.
Enough money to adequately put food on the table, cover the rent, cover the bills. There is no justice when 85 people in this world have more wealth. In silence, where currently there is a youth and student rebellion against an authoritarian government. It's happening in Lebanon, where people are on the streets protesting the end of a corrupt austerity government. It's been happening in the United States with the Black Lives Matter movement, a great popular uprising against racism. And now it needs to happen here, because we are fighting for a world where there's room for many worlds, and if we don't hang together, we'll surely hang separately. Thank you on behalf of Cardiff People's Assembly. See you on the streets.
By deals which are the consequences of the deals made by colonial countries, and Britain has a terrible role to play in this, an awful role, a huge responsibility. And I just want to give you a few facts about Palestine today, just to show you what life is like there. Today, there are 6.5 million Palestinian refugees. Some of them were displaced as early as 1948, and those 6.5 million are them and their descendants. 1.5 million of them live in refugee camps, and that is the situation we're seeing. Across all parts of occupied Palestine, Israel situation, and they need support from all over the world. Nelson Mandela, there is a very, very famous quote from Nelson Mandela. He stated that we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. So please join us in the struggle. If you see we put things on Facebook, there are things on Twitter, things on social media advertised. If you see there's an event in support of the Palestinians, remember the Palestinians in the West Bank, remember the Palestinians in Gaza, and please come and support us.
Hello everybody. Funny enough, there's not just one mental health worker from Swansea speaking today, there's two. So as Danny earlier spoke as a nurse, I'm a community mental health social worker. If we get a psychiatrist down here from Swansea, some people from Cardiff will have to start worrying. You know what we're like when we all get together. Right, I just wanted to say that we come from Swansea today, and that was a fantastic, a brilliant demonstration. I always say that on demonstrations, but I really felt that this one was special because it was so wide in its participation and so enthusiastic. Really pleased that my speakers had the pleasure of having a couple of people using these microphones. These events over the last few months have been special, and this one has been special again today. And it fills my heart up, and it fills everybody else's heart up, because I think we have got inside of us a new future, and we can find it. Now, you know what happens? You know what happens that in the press later on today, it will say that all these people turned up, they didn't social distance, they're going to spread the virus. But I can tell you that I was looking around, you can look at the photos later, everybody on our demonstration had a mask on, they were told to wear a mask. Everybody knew about the social distancing, but you look around, walking, loads of people didn't. People are going shopping, people are doing their business, everyday life, and the government is sending people back to work and into schools without any care at all. So when they say it's our fault that the COVID will spread, let's make it plain. It's not our fault, it's this government's fault, who never cared in the first place and they're sending us back. to bring about COVID. And I want to make this point as well. Where did it come from? Now, all the facts seem to suggest that it came from the way that agriculture has been organised without a care consequences. This is what happened in the beginning. That's where the virus came from. And it certainly did get spread because the governments cared more about their profits than they did about people in the world. This is where this demonstration comes because this is a culmination of a week of action by the fantastic Extinction Rebellion. The big cheer ever is Extinction Rebellion. They have brought back to the table the question of climate justice. They are pushing people's minds again that we need to do something. And as that speaker said before, we need to keep doing it. More and more action, and we need to hit them where it hurts. Let's join in the Extinction Rebellion, the Climate Rebellion, and let's fight however hard we need to. It's because we all are behind. But this demonstration was special for one other reason, was that it was so broad with the participations. It was brilliant to hear the LGBT saying that we are here, we are right to be here. It was brilliant to see all those people campaigning. And the thing that was brilliant as well is to see the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, marching alongside Extinction Rebellion today. We are in Cardiff. And most people know this, but I've marched there 20 odd years ago for the Cardiff 3. The Cardiff 3 was stitched up for a crime. They have never had justice. It's the same system then, the same system now. It's doing to people now, and we've had enough. It's got to change. The thing about racism is, and the thing about all oppression, whether it's against lesbian, gays or women, is it's there to divide us. Divide us so they can get away with doing the things they do. And that's what we need nowadays more than anything, is unity between us so we can fight the system.
Do you think that they have justice at heart? No! I don't think so either. And that's why things like today have to keep going. I can't recall a day in the past 3-4 months where justice hasn't been on my mind. From the death of Ahmaud Arbery, to the death of George Floyd, to the shooting of Jacob Blake, the death of Mercy Baguma. All this has happened in the space of a few months. Do you know how many protests I've spoken at? How many I've helped to organize? Because I know what's necessary to get the change that we need. And that's what we are trying to instill in the people. You need to know what's necessary to get the changes that we need. It's necessary to keep protesting. It's necessary to keep marching. It's necessary to check in with your local organizations and activists and ask them, what are you doing? Ask us, question us, because we are supposed to have your interests at heart. And we're trying to take those interests and instill it in our government, in the powers that be, because they have created a system, and just the same way that it was created by humans, it can be dismantled by us as well. It was created by people, so it can be dismantled by the people as well. Because we can't sustain no longer situations like Sianda or Christopher Capessa can't be allowed to carry on. Because if we don't have justice for black and brown people, for trans people, for women, for Palestinians, we've not achieved any justice at all. If we don't have equality and equity for all the different groups of people that represent us, that represent humanity, the human race, we've achieved nothing. Until we can all sit down and say, those marches, all that organizing, all those speeches actually led to something visible, something tangible, something that the next generation are going to remember us for, something that my kids, your kids, and their kids are going to remember us for, then we have not achieved our mission. We have not reached the end goal. And it's our duty to be united, to create a united front, to unite the different groups of people and different organizations, because we all have one common goal, and that's justice. That's why we went for justice now. That's the common denominator between all these groups, is justice. It's simple. And with justice in our minds, in our hearts, and at our core, there's no telling what we can achieve. I just want to finish by saying we have a demonstration that we've organised at BLM Point tomorrow from 1 till 3 at the Western Hotel. It will be a pleasure to see all these faces there as well. I think a lot of us know what those causes are. And the truth is that as well as all of these things being interconnected, we are all interconnected, we're all interdependent. And the truth is we're not going to make anything better on this planet. The only way we can make this better is by organising and having solidarity between working class people and between marginalised people, and just being each other's friends and showing up to each other's causes. We're all here for it. I think it's sick. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, Acorn is a community housing union. We mainly focus on fighting for tenants' rights. If you rent your home, we can and will support you. We can and will help you. So check us out, come talk to us, join in. Acorn Cardiff are here on this march because we need immediate justice in the housing sector. The system that for too many people is a brutal and Kafkaesque edifice that preys on the basic human need for shelter and for a place to call home.
Hello, my name is Jasmine. I'm 16 and I'm here representing Cardiff Youth Strike for Climate. We organise monthly school strikes that have been campaigning for a year and a half as part of the UK Youth Climate Movement inspired by Greta Thunberg. We fight for climate justice, aiming for the strongest possible mitigation of the climate crisis, while understanding that it cannot be resolved without social justice. Our aim is to bring about a social change to develop a sustainable form of living that puts people and planet above profit. Climate justice is so intersectional with all the different campaign groups here today. We cannot achieve our goals without the hard work and dedication of all of us here. This is why working in solidarity with other justice organisations is so important to us. And we look forward to continuing to do so in the future. Only as a collective will our government truly listen to our demands. The climate crisis is already affecting vulnerable communities across the world. People are dying from the actions of rich corporations and unjust governments. We are privileged.
This is the capital city. If you can't do it here, where the hell are you doing it? And we will never, ever, ever accept any construction on the meadow. This place has kept us happy, healthy and generally sane during the pandemic and for decades gone by. It provides a home for nature in a world where space is rapidly declining. And it shows us what our area was like before this city even existed. It gives us a connection to nature which is unfortunately and unjustly rare in cities. And so finally, I really want to say to you here today, don't give up on whatever you're campaigning on. You know you're doing the right thing and the necessary thing, defending nature and environment and your own justice. And no matter what a government says is mitigatable, don't accept it because it's not mitigatable anymore. So what this campaign has really taught me is the power of the community coming together to say no. We were told it was impossible to save the meadow. We've been called crazy, tree huggers, hippies, even eco-perverts, and that's only to name a few. And honestly, at IDGAF, I and thousands of others in Whitchurch grew up on this meadow and there's no chance we're letting it be taken away from us. So we started a Change.org petition and a Facebook group and that was it. And 6 months later we stand here with thousands of you. That is the power of a community that perseveres no matter what. I think all of you know it's not easy, but I think all of you know it's the right thing to do, no matter what the government or the police are telling you. We need change and we need to save all the green spaces we can. And the best way to do that is to make sure you're standing up for nature and saying a big fuck you to developers and government who can't comprehend the world has changed and needs to keep changing if we even stand a chance to fight this climate change. Thank you.
Our last speaker for today, we've got Aaron from XR Scientists. Massive round of applause. Thank you, Aaron. People, as Jasmine said, will face the future impacts that they did nothing to cause and will be left with a growingly unstable world to live in. So all these injustices share a common set of characteristics, and that is that the economic, social and democratic inequalities create environmental problems like climate change. And these same inequalities mean that the environmental issues turn into crises with unfair consequences. We cannot have true climate solutions if we treat fairness and equity as nice to haves but not essentials. For climate justice, we need global justice. For climate justice, we need migrant justice. For climate justice, we need gender justice. And for climate justice, we need social justice. So what do we want? Climate justice. When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
And when do we want it?
Now!
So get involved, as all the other speakers have been saying. Give yourselves a round of applause, and thank you very much. Let's make this a better world. Thank you all for staying and listening all the way to the end. That is fantastic. Solidarity is showing up. It's listening, it's hearing each other, and it's taking that away and taking action about it. There are people in prison that shouldn't be. There are people facing abuse every day that shouldn't be. Housing evictions are still on the table because these guys won't make their minds up. There are things we can do today, tomorrow, and next week, and we should come back. Do you want to come back?
Yes!
We should come back as soon as we can. So please stay in touch. Keep an eye on the Justice Now Cardiff page. If you are a group or know a group, invite them, get in touch. This group, our Justice Coalition, is new and fresh, and it's a fledgling, and we invite all groups fighting justice to join us. So please get in touch. Thank you all so much. Should we call it a day? You've been amazing. To all of XR that have come down.
Folks, I want to say the very last words. I want you to take heed to the advice of Killer Mike after the tragedy of the death of George Floyd. And what did Killer Mike say? As people, we need to come together and what? We need to plot, plan, organise, strategize, and do what you did today. Mobilise! Well done, everybody! Well done, everybody! You are amazing, and you will be the change that we want to see. Thank you, everyone.